Hey guys, and welcome back to Ultra Game World, and today we are looking at a £500 gaming PC parts list build. Now I know what you're thinking, I can't build a PC right now during the scalper time that we live in. Well, I want you to know that I've got your back, and I've created a few little videos here that I will show you from different budgets that you'll be able to build your own PC. So this first video is going to be a £500 build, and I've got another 4 videos coming up. One will be, the next one up from here is 750, then it'll be 1000, then it'll be 1250, and then it'll be 1500. Now these are all pounds, so it's all UK based. Most of the products are from Amazon. I have used CCL, which is CCL Online. There's other ones like Scan as well, so obviously look around. I probably would avoid eBay, can get a little bit scammed at times on there, and graphics cards prices are just kind of all over the place on there, so I probably would avoid eBay, but most e-retailers here in the UK are perfectly fine to buy from. And I brought from CCL before, I've brought obviously from Amazon before, and quite a few other retailers, Overclockers, Scan obviously. So in this video, basically, it's going to be a £500 build that you're going to be able to buy all the parts from yourself, and then obviously build it. Now, I do have other videos which I'll obviously link in the top corner there, top right hand corner, so you can check out how to build a gaming PC, and hopefully in a few weeks time we will probably be doing a gaming PC build as well. Whether you'll see that in a few weeks time or it might take about a month or so, but we're going to do a kind of a sort of budget build around about the £500 mark, as this video is actually going to be itself as well. So yeah, obviously please subscribe for that video coming up. Without further ado, let's just go into this parts list. I've got my laptop at the side, and I'll just talk about the parts as I go through them. Obviously, if you've got any questions or comments of what you might change with the build, please obviously let me know below in the comments, and sort of say I would change this part with this part, or maybe even if you've got like other builds, or maybe like pre-builds, or kind of other alternatives maybe to what I've obviously come up with, obviously let me know. So obviously this is all new parts, this isn't any used parts, but if you do want to get used parts, then obviously get used parts, because if you can get the deals, then you're going to save a lot of money and you're going to have a better build. But without further ado, let's get into the parts now. So we're starting off with the CPU, obviously. That's where more or less every build starts off with. We've chosen the Ryzen 1600AF, which currently on Amazon is available for £119. So this is a 6-core 12-thread processor. It's going to be perfectly fine for what we need. This is a budget build. We don't need absolute amazing CPUs. We don't need the whole 12-core 24 threads, obviously. That's going to blow our budget totally out of the window, so obviously we don't need that. 6-core 12 threads, perfectly fine. Next we have the motherboard. Motherboard here is where we've really got to cheap out, unfortunately, in order to hit our £500 mark. We have chosen the MSI A320M-A PRO MAX mATX board. Now this board is only £35, and it is a budget board, and you won't be able to overclock your CPU, but I think for a lot of people who are looking for budget builds aren't going to be overclocking their processor, so there's really no point of having that better board or going up to the B450s, because if you're not overclocking, there's not really a great difference between the different chipsets here. So for £35, I think it's a good budget motherboard. I think it's perfectly fine for our build. Obviously we need to hit that £500 budget, and we have to make sacrifices somewhere, and this is where we're going to make a sacrifice, so I'm perfectly happy with that choice, and let's move on. Now RAM is obviously again where we're having to cut corners. This is not ideal. I wouldn't like to do this. If it was my own build, I certainly wouldn't do this, but again, it's up to you. I've just chosen the 8GB of 3200 megahertz, one RAM kit, one memory module kit, shall I say. So this is actually only £40 on Amazon. It's the HyperX FURY one. I'll again show it below. Again, to hit our £500 mark target here, we have to make sacrifices, and again, this is a sacrifice. Now, of course, a gaming PC really needs 16 gigabytes these days. However, we are making a little sacrifice here in order to get a better graphics card. We'll actually move on to that now. So the graphics card is obviously where we're going to put as much money as possible, because we're looking at a gaming PC, and obviously the best performance we're possibly going to get from our games will be with the graphics card. That's where we're just going to get the best performance if you're purely looking for gaming performance. So we've chosen the MSI 1050 Ti 4GB version. This is actually on CCL Online, and it's actually £190, which is way more than I want to pay for a 1050 Ti, but we are where we are in the market. Of course, I would go either used here, or I would look around as much as possible. I mean, really, for £190, it was only a year ago really where you were looking around the sort of 1660 sort of mark, maybe in 6060 Super, getting that sort of territory. So you're not getting a lot for your money here, unfortunately, but it's the times we live in. We've just got to accept that. Again, do deals hunting, look around on your used selling sites, do as much as you can digging around trying to get the best deal here. But 1050 Ti, yeah, it's okay. It's not going to be amazing, and you're going to have to, on some more demanding titles, you're going to have to drop down to 720p obviously. On more esports titles, you'll be perfectly fine at 60 FPS or 1080p. Fortnite would be perfectly fine here. Obviously, something like Overwatch will be perfectly fine as well. Rocket League will be perfectly fine, but obviously your Cyberpunks, you obviously have to drop down to 720p. Let's move on now to storage. I've just gone with a 500GB NVMe drive. This is the Crucial P2, and that's about £47. So a little bit more than I probably want to pay for 500GB drive. It is an M.2 NVMe drive, so I do think it's worth paying a little bit extra. Again, storage is something that you can probably cut down if you want to. If you want to go for a 240GB standard SSD, or by all means you could do that instead, and then just simply at a later date maybe add a 1TB hard drive or even a 2TB hard drive. This is something which I probably would recommend, because storage isn't really going to affect your performance. It would only affect your performance if you're running Windows 10 with a hard drive, but obviously no one does that nowadays. So as long as you have, even if you went down all the way down to 128GB SSD, that would be perfectly fine as well. So moving on to the power supply, again we're having to cut corners here. We're having to go with the 500 watt Aerocool Cylon. It's an 80 plus unit. I obviously would like 80 plus bronze, but again you're going to have to pay a little bit more extra, and that's going to blow our budget, so we can't do that. This is £26, so it's a great price. And Aerocool is actually quite a decent brand, to be fair. I would say they're quite an up-and-coming sort of brand in the UK here. Overall, other people on YouTube have actually reviewed this power supply, and there's not really been any sort of major bad reviews or anything about it. It is obviously budget power supply, but you do get the black cables, and they're actually quite thin cables as well. They're not the big fat ones, so that's a good plus as well. And yeah, for a budget power supply, I think it's perfectly fine. And next, the case is the NEXUS M BLACK mATX case. It's from Techwear. It's only £35 on Amazon, which I think is a really great price. You actually get 2 fans with this as well. It's not a mesh front, but at this price we're not really going to get that. £35 for a tempered glass case, I think it's perfectly fine. It's mATX, so it will fit our motherboard perfectly fine as well. It will actually look quite a nice little build, I think. You won't have any of the RGB bling, but it's a £500 PC, so we're not looking for RGB bling here. We're just looking for price to performance as much as we can get. So my total here that I've got is £491 83p, which I think is a pretty good deal. I think in this time that we're in, that isn't a bad PC. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I think overall you will have a good experience with this. Of course, if you can obviously get the better GPU, you're going to have so much better price to performance here. If this was my own PC, I probably would extend the budget, or I just wouldn't buy it. I probably would look at the sort of more 600 or maybe even £700 mark, and then just buy some more quality components, and then maybe put a little bit more towards a graphics card as well, a better graphics card. Now there are quite a few pre-built sort of options as well you can look at this price, but that's going to be for a different video that I'm going to release soon as well, probably in the next few months. I would say I'm going to look at probably the best sort of pre-builds around the sort of 750 to maybe £1,000 sort of mark, and I'm going to look at sort of where we're going to go with pre-builds, because I do think right here, right now, if I had to do a new PC right now and it was my own money, I probably would go down the pre-built route, which, you know, isn't great, but you just are going to get more value for money going down the pre-route side, as long as you buy from a non-proprietary sort of company, which means basically Dell and HP and stuff like that are all out of the question. You want to go with a system builder basically who will use generic parts off the shelf and then just assemble your PC. That's who you really want to go with. In the UK here, probably AWD-IT is probably one of the big ones, and I think it's Polycom as well. So those probably will be the ones I look at. But this is a later date. Again, let me know what you think of this build and what you would sort of suggest otherwise. I think for £500 you're getting a good balanced PC. It's going to be, to a certain degree, future-proofed because you are on the AM4 platform. So you will have that extra ability to go right up to say like the 3900X. And I think the A320 chipset might not be able to use the 5000 series Ryzen, unfortunately. So you might have to go B450 if you do want that compatibility. I hope you liked that video, guys. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.